Well, I'm delighted to be here, Renee. I must say that I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve, or in front of a star of your magnitude. I mean, you are absolutely amazing on the court and off. Your life speaks for itself. The achievements in sport, the number of clubs that you played in, the trophies and the awards that you deserved and collected, the countries that you traveled, but above all, the way you inspire people with your example of ethics, of generosity, of intervention. You have won everything that practically an athlete can aspire to. You are at the top of the tree, one of the world's greatest female basketball athletes. And now you have decided to shift to be interventive, be active on social justice matters. That is quite a change. I kind of
That might be
understand.
the best intro I've ever received, Emmanuel. Honestly, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, it's just telling the truth as I see it, and everybody else sees it. But I wanted to ask you, what brings you to Atlanta in days like this? What are you doing now that probably, and without not without a question mark, fans are getting ready to see you starring in other stages rather than on the field?
Yeah, so in Atlanta, we battle a lot here in Atlanta, just like every other city. But Atlanta is a historical city. You've seen it with Martin Luther King, with the Congressman John Lewis, and the thing that Atlanta makes Atlanta so historical is the struggle that we've had here for so many years. So we're still struggling in a sense of a voter suppression. Last election, we had line waits of like 9 hours. That's unacceptable because people can't sit aside a whole day to decide to go vote. So there's different things that we battle here in Atlanta, and I look to have initiatives that tackle those things. So when it comes to voter suppression, well, one of the main problems is that 60% of voters voted last election, 2016. We have to get that number up. And I think the reason people don't vote is because they don't feel a connection. They don't feel, well, why will it matter? Will my vote count? Remember the 3rd of November is my voter registration campaign, along with the Chris Amerson, who that's our goal to show people, no, you need to vote and here's why, and it's not to tell people who to vote for. It's if you vote for your mayor is the one that decides the city budget. So when we're talking about different things in the city, you need to know what's going on. And then the second thing is HBCUs. And a lot of times we see people with police brutality, and everyone's trying to figure out, how do you stop this problem of police brutality? I have no idea right now. Honestly, I don't have an answer. But what I do know is that you can build. And so here in Atlanta, we have a school in Morris Brown that I want to build with. I want to get it a very tech forward school. I want to make it different. A lot of Black and brown communities, they don't have tech. It's just not a thing that's just developed early. So I want to start developing tech in HBCUs, and I'm starting with Morris Brown. So I'm pretty excited with what's going on here in Atlanta.
I bet you are, and you have great reasons to be excited with all of the progress that you are propelling. Um, and I must say that, looking from the other side of the Atlantic, what we see coming from the US, an unrivaled, unprecedented appetite for change, demand for change. Perhaps this is also linked with growing levels of frustration, of disappointment, of resentment, even, or I could even say of anger, because people are not getting from global leaders the solutions that they proclaimed they would deliver. So no wonder people are not happy. No wonder people are expressing themselves. And no wonder athletes also, who have always been regarded as role models, are taking the lead, are giving a step forward, or kneeling to express that enough is enough and things must change. And so I do understand clearly the motivation behind all this new attitude from so many sports stars, but also common people. And I think it's time that we stand for what we believe. Am I right?
I love that. No, I love that. I do. And I agree with everything you said. There's an appetite for change right now. And to me, that's the most exciting part. Like everyone was asking, well, why can't you do both? You can. And that's why the athletes that went to go play in the bubble in their respective wobbles, I commend them. I'm going to watch them tonight. But for me, my passion is what drives me. It's what drove me on the court. If anybody's seen me play, I'm a player that's always screaming and in a good way. Like I'm excited. And so that passion has shifted to wanting a change. I have that same appetite, that same hunger for change. So I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah. And you mentioned Atlanta, and that's quite an emblematic place. You mentioned also Martin Luther King, and he has been, I think, in people's mouth more than ever these days. Even yesterday, there was a great demonstration where his ideals were once again brought high. But social justice, gender balance, diversity, inclusion, I believe that this will require more than words. What are today's athletes prepared to do to see and to be agents of that change? How far are they willing to go? What are the constraints that they are facing? Let us not forget that a year ago, the NFL punished athletes for kneeling down, and look to how things changed. Do you think that there is, from the athlete community in the US and broadly, this conscience, this perception, this willingness to take action, even if anachronic sports regulations say that they should be like statues and deprived of any feelings and not interfering in matters that really affect them?
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think athletes have shown that they're ready to go all the way. When I say all the way, that means to give up the sport that they love and the sport that we've played our whole life. And people just imagine having a goal since you were young. A lot of pro athletes, since I was 10, I knew that my pathway was to get to the pros. Like that's all I thought about. That was my mindset. So think about a 10-year-old me going through my whole life. I end up being a McDonald's All-American. So I'm like, yes, I did my high school duties. And then I graduate and I go to UConn. I'm like, yes, I'm still on the path. And then I graduate UConn. We go undefeated my senior year. And I'm like, okay, this is happening. And then we get to the pros and we think that this is going to be this whole wonderful world. And it is. But then you see what's going on outside of sports, So it's like in the sports world, everybody wants you to just only focus on, but look, you're an athlete. Look what you have, all these luxuries. And then you're like, you're torn because you're doing so well in one space. And then you look out at the world and you're like, no, this is not okay. So I think athletes have shown that dynamic, that pull of, yes, sports is sports and we love our sports, but this is bigger. I think that you start to just see it now, and people are humanizing athletes for it. They start to see grown men crying on TV. That's not normal. That's not normal for your favorite athlete that's this big, strong, fast athlete to be crying. But that is where we're at right now. And it's 11:11. That is where we're at right now. And I think that that's important to see athletes as humans, because now people can understand why we want to talk about these issues. Before they told us to shut up and dribble.
Yeah, I think I agree with you entirely. And I would even go further. I think what is not normal is that people have to repress their feelings. Yeah. People have to repress their choices. People have to repress their credos or what they believe in. For a society that it is most of the time hypocritical and very fast to judge, but very slow in giving the example. And I think this is also a sign of the times that we are facing, of great uncertainty, of massive crisis, not just a crisis aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic, but a crisis in leadership, a crisis in values, a crisis in authenticity, and that is very, very dangerous when we see the contrast in this world, when we see a world that has enough to end hunger, and yet we have more than 1 billion people in the world suffering from chronic hunger and malnutrition. That makes us think. When we see proclamations in our constitutions of equal of rights, of freedom of speech, of inclusion, of diversity, of respect, and then we see the reality completely different.
Yeah.
I think this forces to think, and this forces to take action. And
Yeah.
many
And you know,
people,
with athletes, and just to piggyback with athletes, it almost, well, it wasn't almost, there's a stigma around mental health. If you talk about you suffer from anxiety, or you suffer from a depression, or you suffer from anything that involves mental, people start to look at you as you're flawed. Like, oh, well, you're stock, you have character issues or different things. And I know that that's changing and ever evolving, but there's a reason that athletes never came out before, you know, because it's frowned upon. And now I think with the sign of the times is showing that everyone's human, everyone has feelings, and let's all treat those feelings the same across the board. So like I said, I've never been more proud to be an athlete. Like that means a lot right now. To be a professional athlete, that means a lot.
it means a lot. I must say, of course, everybody knows my background. I've always been on the other side, close to the athletes, but running leagues and running international organizations from the employer side, but always having a very respectful relationship and constructive with the athletes and their representative structures. FIFPro can speak about that. But when you talk about mental health, I cannot avoid reminding the great example of generosity, of solidarity that the athletes have given over these past few months. People locked in their homes, kids without the possibility to play in open air. Imagine the trauma that this has caused. And I think this, what you mentioned, the mental health, I think this is one of the most serious and silent and cynical consequences of this global pandemic. We don't see it, but there will be a huge impact. And the athletes, once again, as they have done now, they will be called in the near future also to motivate, to inspire, and to push, to elevate our morale up.
I think that's what people were missing a lot, you know, and of course when we talked about bring sports back, a lot of people, yes, they miss actually just watching their favorite athlete on TV, but what I think a lot of people miss was the fraternity and the sorority of being a part of a fan group. You know, like when you get online, the Lakers are playing, you know, you're going to argue with these fans, the Clipper fans, and you know that your other Laker friends are going to be a part of it. People miss the social aspect of sports, you know, not just watching LeBron James do an unbelievable dunk or watching Diana Taurasi shoot from half court. Basically, people miss being a part of a group. People miss having activities to do together. And sports, if no one has realized it now, sports is the great connector. You know, when sports shut down, that's when everybody was like, whoa, this COVID is serious. You know, when sports shut down, that's when everyone started to take everything a little bit more serious and get a little bit more depressed, I would say, about the situation in the sense of what are we doing? We don't have sports now. Like it was like everything, sports sucked the life out of everyone. And that's what makes me happy to be an athlete, to be able to give that joy. Like that's crazy that me doing something I love can bring so many people joy. That's what I cherish most about being an athlete.
Yeah, yeah. I think that when we face the utmost adversity, we still have reasons to believe that it is possible, and we need to remain confident and productive. And no doubt, the athletes have given a huge contribution to that. Of course, the doctors, the nurses, all the medical staff, we have reasons to be thankful. But I think we all have an important role to play. We mentioned a while ago important words like governance, like democracy, like participation, female leadership, and no doubt you are a female leader. And no doubt that thanks to hard work, many hours of practice, sacrifice, you managed to crack the gender glass ceiling. What message would you, seizing this occasion, what message would you convey to the thousands or millions of young girls and aspiring female leaders? What message would you give them to encourage them, to make them believe that, yes, we can, yes, it is possible to get a seat around the table and be heard?
Yeah, so I think women have been not necessarily polite about it for history, but women have always been a forefront in history when it comes to civil rights. They're always at the intersection. Women are the intersection, and I think perspective is why young girls, if you're a young girl right now, you have a perspective that your male counterparts don't. Women are naturally nurturing, caring. We naturally look for solutions to help. And so that is what people might say is going to work against you, but I think that's what's going to be our strong suit. I think that women are going to have a certain level of compassion, but also it doesn't mean that we don't have that same level of aggressiveness to handle business, and a lot of people try to say, oh, women have one side, but they don't have the other. No, we have both. We have both, but it's coming from people that don't necessarily see the other side as much, so they see it as a weakness. But I think our compassion in a time like this, I think that in a time like this where we're in a COVID crisis, we're in a racism crisis, there's no better time for a woman to lead or for a young lady to lead. There's no better time. This is what we need. We need compassion. We need direction. We need understanding. We need everything that a woman possesses right now. So if anybody tells you it's not a time for women, this is the time. There's no better time to bet on women.
I fully agree. This is the right time to do what's right, and we need more women at the forefront, because this is not just a men's club. This is supposed to be a shining example of the values. Sport must be an example of values that we want to see in society, and that is democracy. Another word that you used when you mentioned the voter suppression, and that is transparency, accountability, and respect for human rights, diversity, and race. As you know, we have a number of these thought leadership initiatives. We are propelling change all over the world. It has been truly amazing to see not just women that are at the top that have achieved a leadership role, but also the young girls and and girls of all ages, of all countries, that will be gathering together within the Sport Integrity Week this week, under initiative that we have developed. It's a global mentorship program for aspiring female leaders in sport. And what a great example you would give to them. So please join us. We would be thankful also to see you at the forefront of this movement.
Yeah, no, and I love that you're focusing on women, and the reason I say that is because that's almost an untapped market. A lot of people now, because of this pandemic and this climate, they're looking at the WNBA like, wow, these ladies are really standing up. And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing it since at least 2016 and before. And the reason I say that is because in 2016, my Minnesota Lynx team, we wore shirts that says change starts with us. And this is an all women's league. So change starts with us. That's what people need to understand. I think a lot of people, they look at their platform and they're like, well, I don't have a gazillion followers like this person, or I don't have the connections that this person has. Who cares? Yeah. Who cares? Like, whatever you have, use it.
Absolutely.
Like that's all you need. You only need the desire to want to do it. Whatever you want to do, you just need the desire. Everything's a Google away. YouTube University. You can learn to do anything now on the internet. So I would just say for the young, aspiring, for the people that are rebranding themselves or pivoting because of the pandemic, do it right now. Figure out what you want to do and just do it. Don't wait on anyone. Don't wait on the perfect time. Just do it.
Yeah, I think those are very powerful, very inspirational words. And I do hope that the people that are watching us and listening to us pay really attention to what you're saying, because that is a silver bullet. The silver bullet is to not be waiting for change to happen, but be agents of change. Give a step forward, make it happen. Don't be afraid if you fall, as long as you get back on your feet and stand up again and do it better and better and better again. Don't be afraid of being criticized, because even to fail is the first step towards success. So the courage, the strength, the motivation and inspiration that you are conveying, I must take my hat off, because it is because of people like you that there are reasons to be hopeful, to believe that we can change this. And it's not just the politicians, it's not just the governments, It's the public opinion. And the more conscious the public opinion is and committed to take action,
Yeah.
the better will be.
I
Because
love it.
because in democracy, people are the king.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
you are the queen. And you are the queen.
I love that. In democracy, people are the king. I love that because
Yeah.
it's true. That's what makes democracy so powerful. You have a say in it. And I think for a
You can
long
put that on t-shirt right now.
Hey, look, moments equal momentum is what I wear
You
right
see?
now for a reason. Like I wear that because I really believe that if you just take that leap of faith, that's the moment that you started everything, and then you start momentum from that moment. So I've just stuck by the phrase, a moment equals momentum.
Exactly. And it's momentum that we are building on this Sport Integrity Week, the first ever. And again, trust me, we have taken risks. We have stepped some toes. We have rocked some boats. But this is what we are here for. This is the nature, this is the meaning, and this is the reason why SIGA existed. It's not to be nice just for the sake of being nice. It's to question, and it's to push, and it's to drive, and it's also to make change happen. So we will have, and I want to, and I know that you will be following us throughout the week. We will have great leaders, very influential organizations. We will have young leaders. We will have forward thinkers. We will have trailblazers. We will also have troublemakers like myself.
Hey, that good trouble, that John Lewis good trouble.
Yeah. And we will discuss all these issues way deeper. So I want also to if you could have this magic crystal ball, what would you imagine the world would be in 10 years time? What lessons can we
I
take from
love that.
these crucial moments that we are facing? Crucial moments.
Yeah. I would
Moments
say with
that
that magic ball that I would have would be that people would change, everyone would just change their perspective. You know, it's only natural as a human that you look at everything from your upbringing, you look at everything from your point of view. You're always going to try to make yourself seem in the best light, but I hope that in 10 years people start to just see situations not just from their perspective but from others. You know, I think in America we're one of the countries that it's like our way or the highway, you know, and I played overseas for 10 years straight and I see different lifestyles, you know, and then I come to America and I see that we have a certain way of doing things and maybe that's not the best way. Maybe we can see now that, you know, it's not just let me just worry about myself and stay in my own lane. Maybe we do need to worry about our neighbor. Maybe we do need to worry about an issue that doesn't affect us at all, because that's what got us here now, where people, if the issue only affected you and you're the only one that's worried about it, that's a problem. But now if you look at these protests, it's not just Black and brown people at the protests. It's white America at the protest. It's it's different cultures. It's different countries having protests for us. Like, so that's different for me. And that's what's exciting. So in my little crystal ball, if I had one, I would hope that we continue across this path of being understanding and being empathetic.
Well, I would not only subscribe, but I would join you on that wish, in the hope that we can all unite forces to seize this momentum and to use it as a catapult for reforms and change. We need it. We need those reforms and change. This is our responsibility. This is a defining moment, a decisive moment, and it's time for this generation to take ownership for the problems that we have inherited, but also to contribute to solve it. Let's not leave this task only to politicians. We need a genuine, widespread cultural change to put integrity at the top, and with integrity comes respect, comes tolerance, and comes social peace. And that can only be achieved when we as human beings respect each other, no matter how we look like, and no matter the color of our skin, or no matter whether we are rich or poor. I think this is not rocket science. It's so easy to understand, but so difficult to make it happen. So let's roll up our sleeves and get it done. Shall we?
Listen, you ain't got to tell me nothing. Let's go. I'm ready.
Come on, Renee. We count on you. We count on
I
you.
appreciate that.
Final question: when you look to sport more specifically, and when you look to the global appeal, the commercial side of things, the ever-growing industry, now with new challenges that are related with sports betting, financial transactions in a very opaque, deregulated environment. When you look back to the sport that you said that you will, hang your spurs, what sport do you leave behind in terms of its governance, its integrity, and the perception that people, and above all the athletes, have about it?
I think, now moving forward, when you talk about professional athletes, it's forever changed. I think people will now seek athletes' opinions, seek their counsel. Before, just people only sought after athletes just to entertain, to run up and down the court, run up and down the field, to do some high flying acts. That's what people typically focused on athletes for. But now people are looking at athletes to guide them, to see what direction to go now. Where are we going with this? Where is this new lifestyle? Because, LeBron James said it's not even a movement anymore. This is just the new normal, the lifestyle. So where are we going with this new lifestyle? What do we need to do? I think people are looking for athletes to organize now. Maybe because that's what we've been doing our whole life. I've been a team captain on majority of my teams. And so I've understood how to organize things, how to create a team, how to create a good atmosphere, a positive team, create a disciplined team in a good way, hold people accountable. This is what we do every day in sports. So I think people are starting to realize that our skill sets that we learned in sports are translating directly to everyday life. And for me, there's no better feeling than that, because we've always known that as athletes that we have these skills that are made for the real world. And now people are starting to realize it as well. So I think that's what we're leaving basketball as now.
Yeah. And and do you believe that the athletes are prepared? Do they have the proper training, for example, when they have to deal with new situations, like, for example, the emergence of sports betting? It's a new reality in the US. Or when you see this wave of permanent scandals related with abuse, what needs to be done to safeguard the athletes, to prepare the athletes to be resilient, and also to play a more active role in eradicating these sort of threats?
That's not an athlete's concern. There's always going to be sports betting, but as athletes, they tell you to stay as far away from it as possible, in a sense of we have no say, input, or anything to do with it, because you don't want to be involved in it at all, because obviously you don't want to look like you're throwing any games or anything of that nature. Sports betting is going to be a part of sports, just because it's a moneymaker. And if anybody knows anything about sports, it's a business. Like that's the thing that I think a lot of people had to start understanding when this pandemic happened, because there was half of the world that was like, all right, why even try to do sports? Just wait. And then the other half was, they were craving sports. But then there was the people that know, of course you have to do sports, because if they don't play, that's a big financial loss. Like people don't understand that sports functions just like any other company you would know. A company doesn't want to take a huge financial loss. So even if they have to do something, they have to do it and try to make it as safe as possible for their employees. So I would say, in a sense of sports betting, it's a money thing. And anytime things create a large amount of money, it's not going to eradicate. You're not going to get it out of sports. But as athletes, that's not our concern. We're more focused on what happens on the court, what happens with our brands, what happens with our team brands, what vendors are they using. And, Adam Silver has addressed that tenfold.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to an organization like SIGA, Global Coalition, with a daughter entity in the US, SIGA America? What advice would you give? How do you see the role of SIGA in US sports and across the world? What can you say about that?
I would say with SIGA, whenever you have people at the top of the company, they say it trickles down, right? So I'm sitting here and talking to you, Emmanuel, and I can tell that SIGA's in good hands. And this is when we're an athlete and we're talking about the brands that you want to be involved with, the brands that you want to align with. It better have people like you at the top, because if it doesn't, then there's gonna be something to reveal that company isn't who they say they are, or that company doesn't align with what the athlete's view is. So I would say the role that SIGA could have would be any role they wanted in sports, because coming from an athlete, sports people want to be involved now with brands that align with their thought process. Like that's all that people want right now. A brand that they know is not going to come out and do something that goes against everything that the leagues are working towards. We know SIGA's not going to do that. So I would say whatever role SIGA wants, that you need a bigger role in sports, honestly, because integrity is a big deal right now. You know, it used to be a thing that's only associated with sports, but now people are using that word and they're holding people accountable for, well, how is your company moving? What are you supporting? Well, we know where SIGA lies. So I would say that whatever role SIGA wants in sports, you should have it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's exactly how we feel. We are here to stay. We mean business. We are an expression of a willingness whose time had come to take the initiative, to take responsibilities. And when we started pushing SIGA forward, it was on a period of unprecedented crisis, with scandals decapitating the top of international sports federations, with an environment that was fueled by lack of trust, lack of confidence, and absolute discredit to sport. Some sports more than others, some continents more than others, but the landscape was truly devastating. And this is what drives us. This is what motivates. This is what gets us off the bat every day to continue to do our best. And Renee, it has been an absolute pleasure, this conversation. I have no idea how long this lasts.
I know.
But certainly,
we probably went over the time.
probably it's like cherries, you know, the more the merrier. But there will be other opportunities. I want to thank you for the outstanding work that you are doing. I want to take my hat off to the outstanding career that. Are you really leaving now, or?
No, I just sat out of this season. So that's all I've talked about is the 2020 season. So I'm looking to get back on the court. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. But it has been a true pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring. Keep pushing, because the time is right to do what's right. And we all have to take a stance, and we all have to take our responsibilities.
Well,
thank you for joining us at the Sport Integrity Week. We wish you well, and stay tuned with us.
Thank you for having me.